As a golf instructor, we kid amongst ourselves because every time we see a new player that comes to us, we start interviewing them and asking questions about their game. They all say drivers costing them the most strokes. And that's what's killing them is driver and full swings. Maybe it's fairway woods. And I'll say, okay. And I'll say, well, how about putting? And, oh, well, putting, you know, I'm pretty good at putting. That's probably the best part of my game. And I'll say chipping, and they'll say, oh, you know, chipping, I'm pretty good at that too. And so almost everybody that comes to see me the first time tells me that chipping and putting is the best part of their game. And when you actually watch them chip and putt, or you have them keep statistics for a couple rounds, you find out they have 40 putts every time they play. They chip it 3 times every time they have a chip before they even get on the green, and they're lousy at it. And they're shooting 110 and they think it's their driver's fault. Their driver might be lousy too, but their short game, I rarely find somebody that is really as good at their short game as they claim. So we're going to show you how to practice that and how to get better. And I promise you, if you'll spend the time, you'll cut stroke after stroke after stroke off your game. One of the questions I get asked the most from my students is, how do I practice? I've got a few hours each week to practice, and what do I do to best use that time, that it's productive and that I get better? So I have a couple of rules. For every hour that you practice full swings, you ought to practice 2 hours chipping, pitching, putting, or bunker play. So short game, 2 hours, full swing, 1 hour. And so what I'm going to show you today, and with the help of Patrick here, is that I'm going to show you how I would budget my time if I had 4 hours to practice this week. 2 hours on Wednesday, 2 hours on Friday, and then I'll play either Saturday or Sunday. Where I recommend that you always start with is the short game part of it, so you stay disciplined and you actually do that time. If you start with your full swing and you're not hitting your driver very good, you'll end up spending all 2 hours over on that part of the driving range with worrying about your full swing. So always start in short game. And then I always start on putting. So we're going to putt both days. We might do different short game shots on Wednesday than we do on Friday, but we're going to putt on both Wednesday and Friday. So here's how I like to start. By far, I think the most productive drill putting. We're going to work on our path and our face control to start with. And so if you've seen some of my other videos, from a putting point of view, there's 3 skills that you have to be able to have. You have to be able to hit it straight. The second one is you have to be able to hit it the right distance, depending on how far away you are. And then the third thing is you have to learn how to read greens. So those are the skills that we need to practice. So we're going to start off on learning to hit it straight. That's very close to the hole. And my favorite one is to find a straight putt on the green, and with either a chalk line on the ground or with these pegs and a string above the ground. That's my favorite one. Set it up to where you have a straight putt. I like using the line on my ball every time, and so I actually have the ball lined up right under this string as well. And then as I would come around to practice, then as I get my eyes over the target line, that string blocks out the white line on my putter and I can't see it. So once I get set up in that position, then I can roll this putt and I can see it roll up my target line and I can see the ball roll. I would spend 5 or 10 minutes every day on this drill, and it'll really help you. And so I don't use a lot of training aids, but putting I like several. And so this string is one, and I like my putting arc, and we can combine training aids. So as I'm working on face control with the string, I can also work on my path with the putting arc. So I've set up my putting arc here with this string, and I can just guide this on the line and hopefully make it. I can also set my mirror up that exact same way. Okay, one of my other favorite drills, especially on 3 foot to 8 foot range, how good you are at controlling your pace on the ball as you stroke it is really important. But almost everybody practices these short putts to a hole. And even though you're making them on the putting green, practicing, and it goes in the hole, you really don't know how hard you're hitting the putt. So one of the things I like to do, this is great before you play, right before you go, the last thing you do before you go to the golf course, is find an old hole plug. And you can see I've got 4 balls around it about 3 feet away. And if I hit a good putt, I can tell if I would make it, it would roll over the old hole plug. But I'm trying to roll it maybe 12, 13 inches past the hole. And if there's a hole there and it gets in the way, I don't really know, am I hitting it harder than that or softer than that? And so this is really good practice. So I can just set up to that, and I can roll that ball, and I can see it go through the hole, and I can see, am I hitting it the right speed that I am comfortable with? And so that's probably the speed I like, that goes 15 to 18 inches by the hole. But you have to do what you find is comfortable in what comeback putt you want if you miss it. So there's been a lot of research done on holding speed with putts, but I think it's a comfort level. So for most of my players that I see, most of them are not comfortable if it rolls 2 feet by, because they're afraid they're going to miss that one. And so if that's the case, learn to roll it 6 inches by, but learn to roll it however far you want to roll it every time. There's nothing wrong with dyeing it in the hole either. That actually probably makes the hole bigger. And so, but unless you're practicing to a hole plug, you're going to have a hard time really learning to control your distance. So that's one of my favorite ones. I might start with balls 3 feet away and putt to this, then go to 5 feet away and putt to that, and then maybe 8 foot away and putt to that. And so if you can really spend a lot of time on those 8 foot and in range putts and learn to control your speed on those correctly, you'll hole a lot more than your share. My next favorite drill for learning to control speed on 6 foot to 12 foot range putts is you need 3 quarters. So we put a quarter down here. 2 steps is 6 feet. Another 2 steps is 12 feet. So I'm going to let Patrick come out and do this one. So what you do, here's the object to the game. This is a great gambling game with your buddies, but it's also just great by yourself, learning to control distance. So we get a point. If he starts here at this quarter, you're going to start here every time. You have to get it past this quarter, but short of that quarter, and you get a point. So the object of the game is to get as many points as you can until you either leave it short or you hit it too far. But as you'll see, The object of the game is to barely get it past this first quarter. So go ahead and hit that putt, Patrick.
This is Ed's putter, so
oh yeah,
I get a little brownie points, a little wiggle room if I was using
they
my own
always
putter.
go in, and for me,
Is that how it works?
Uh-huh. So good. So that's really a good first putt, because what happens now is wherever that ball goes, as long as it's between the quarters, you have to slide the quarter up to where that ball went. And so our space keeps getting smaller and smaller. So now go ahead and roll that ball just barely past that quarter.
Uh-oh.
Good, yeah, I'd agree.
I'm
but you
making
still
this tough
got a
on myself
point.
now.
You're up to 2. Those of you got kids at home that want to be, this is a great game to play with kids. Pretty good, he's up to 3. I would say a very good putter in this game would average 10 or 11 points.
Oh my gosh.
So.
I don't think I'm getting 10 today.
No, you're not getting it on the first time. That's okay. Pretty good, though. You're still going.
Yeah.
Is that 4?
Yeah. Now this is going to be a tricky one.
Got about 6 inches to get it in there.
Oh boy. I'm regretting that second putt.
That counts. Very good.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's a counter. You still got one more chance.
Oh man.
That was 5, right?
Yeah.
That's very good.
I gotta land it on the quarter now, pretty much.
I like doing this uphill and downhill.
Downhill would be really helpful for me.
Uh-huh.
I struggle with those.
Yeah.
Oh, not bad.
It wasn't bad. It
Yeah.
doesn't count, but 5 points. But if
Okay.
he was playing a tour player that got 11, he'd have just lost $6. They play $1.
Do they have a
point.
handicap system for this game?
So we've worked on our line with the string, and we've worked on our path with the putting arc, and the mirror can help as well with the line and all that. And we've practiced a couple of short putts to a hole plug to work on speed, and we've done that quarter game to work on speed. Probably 15 or 20 minutes of each of your putting sessions should be spent on putting looking at the hole. So it's the best way to learn to control your distance. Your eyes are very important in telling your body how hard to do things. So step out here just a little closer, Patrick. So if I throw Patrick a ball, all right, and he tosses it, if he catches it and tosses it back to me, okay, I promise you it doesn't matter how far away I get, he's going to be able to toss the ball to me. And he doesn't think about how far back his arm goes and how far he follows through. His eyes just look at me. I was the target. And so his brain knows how hard to throw a ball. We've been doing that since we're young kids. One of the things, though, with putting that happens is that a lot of people, if you've been on a TrackMan before and you've been fit for a driver, they try to get your smash factor at 1.5. Isn't that right,
Absolutely,
Patrick?
yep.
And that's pretty much a maximum smash factor optimal for a driver. What a lot of people don't know, though, is that with a putter, The smash factor on a putter is actually 1.86. It's more than driver. The reason is there's less loft on a putter than a driver. It's that simple. By the time we get to wedges, 56 or 60 degree wedges, the smash factor on those is usually about 1. Well, a 1 smash factor is how we throw a ball. My arm speed and the ball speed is the same, so therefore it would be a smash factor of 1. That's why when you chip and pitch, it's a pretty good image to feel like you're just throwing a ball underhand because it's the same smash factor. But if I do that with a putter, the ball's going to go 1.86 times faster than my hand speed. And so that's why people struggle with distance control putting. If you put a beginner, a putter in their hand, and the very first putt they ever hit, as long as they make contact, they always hit it way farther than the hole is. And that's because their eyes see how far away it is. They know how hard they would swing to throw it there, but it goes almost twice as fast with a putter. So you have to learn the bounce factor, and your subconscious does, and your eyes have to learn the bounce factor with a putter. So it's crucial to be able to practice putting looking at the hole. So I'll do this a few putts here, just this 15 or 20 footer here. I don't pay much attention to aim or line. I know this one's going to break just slightly to the left, so I'm going to look about a foot to the right of the hole, that the whole distance away, and I'm just going to set up to it from there, and then I'm just going to hit this putt and roll it down there and trust how hard my eyes told me to hit this ball. We're in February here, so I got a bunch of rocks on the green out of the bunker, and we're still pretty dormant, but and slow. But you can see that I would hit putt after putt after putt and try to roll it down there the right speed. The other thing about practicing putting is we just want to eliminate 3 putts. We have a limited amount of time to practice. So it's very important to practice short putts, 8 foot and in. And then it's important to practice where you 3-putt from. So for me, for instance, from 15 or 20 feet, I would rarely 3-putt. And so I don't practice from 15 or 20 feet very often. But from 35 or 40 feet, that's where I would start to have a 3-putt or 2. And so that's where I would spend my time putting, looking at the hole on longer putts. Now, if you're having trouble if you're 3-putting 5 times from 15 feet, well, then you need to practice 15-footers too. But figure out where you need to practice and spend your time there. And so real short putts, obviously practice all the time, and then long putts, practice looking at the hole. And then as a game, if you have a buddy, I like to have 1 ball each and just pick a hole and play 18 holes, but you have to putt looking at the hole every time. And what you'll find then, if you want to know when you're watching on television, who's doing these drills, when they mark their ball, you'll see they line up their ball for their intended target line. And then most of the players then, off to the side or from behind the ball, you will see them taking practice strokes looking at the hole. And they're pretending to hit it. And they're really good at pretending because they've done it thousands of times with a real ball looking at the hole. So everybody you see on TV that is taking practice strokes looking at the hole is practicing looking at the hole on a daily basis. Okay? So do that a lot. Putt on a line, putt with a putting arc, putt with a mirror, find games to play, and putt looking at the hole. That's how we're going to spend our 40 minutes of putting both Wednesday and Friday this week when you go out. Hey guys, I'm here with Will Shelton from TurtleGolfTips.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me, Ed. It's good to see you.
It is great to see you, bud.
Yeah, glad we got a good day.
Yeah, for February, it's not bad.
Not bad.
I think you'll love meeting him. He's great. I've got to meet him last year or two. You teach at Sunset Country Club?
Yes, sir.
In St. Louis?
I've been the teaching professional there for the last 4 years. Started off as an assistant professional, and found out I love teaching just like you. So I got in that side of it and really been enjoying it.
Good.
And I've been on the YouTube game for the last couple of years. So look me up, give me a subscribe, and that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, cool. And it's a pleasure for me. I've been doing this for a long time, and when I get to meet somebody that reminds me of how I was 30 years ago, it's pretty cool. So I think you'll like some of his stuff, and we're just going to talk about putting a little bit. He's a big fan of aim point.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me. So for everyone that doesn't know what aim point is, it's being able to read the putt kind of in your feet and feeling that slope. And kind of once you learn how to calibrate that, you'll never bend down to look at the read again. Okay, you'll always be able to see it.
When you get my age, that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and we talked about plumb bobbing with aim point. I've always been a plumb bobber. I've learned to do that 40 years ago, and
yep.
And I still do, but it matches up for me in aim point really good.
I would totally agree with Ed. Once I finally learned the proper way to plumb bob, thanks to my coworker at Sunset, Marvin Herod, it definitely matches pretty darn close. So when I'm feeling lazy on my aim point, I plumb bob it. So
cool. Now, old school me, I've had this perfect putter for a long time, and those that have seen some of my other videos, there's only 3 skills in putting. You have to be able to hit it straight. You have to aim correctly and hit it straight. You have to control your speed or control your distance. And you have to be able to read greens. And I find, especially with competitive players and people that play a lot of golf, I don't know about you, but I find that most people don't read greens very good at all, and that's really their biggest issue putting. They blame their stroke. They blame every miss they have on a bad stroke, and I find with a lot of them it's just poor reads. I don't know what you think about that.
I could definitely agree with that, especially when it comes to the better player. Obviously, when we're dealing with the club golfer, the high handicapper, I think it's an array of all of it, and they kind of don't know how to, how to quantify it and how to put it into their own system, but I mean the read is definitely, to me, the first half, and then obviously speed will carry you there.
Yep, I agree. So for me, old school wise, I've been doing this for a long time.
Which I've never seen this, so I'm pretty excited to watch Ed.
Yep, and I just like to find a putt that breaks quite a bit. And if you grab those other couple balls there for me, if I started at the same place on the ramp, it will roll the same speed every time, just gravity.
Okay.
So I try to find what I think the correct speed is. For this putt, it's probably in here somewhere. I've done this a few times.
A little firm. Here you go.
And so I'll move it just a little to the left and just a little easier. And we should get to where we're getting pretty close.
Now, Ed, to you, what's proper holing speed? How many inches by the hole?
Great question. I've read all of Dave Pelz's stuff. One book says 17 inches and one says 18.
Yeah.
I think that's probably accurate, but I find that most players, that's too far by to hit the putt.
Yeah.
And most people are uncomfortable with a 18 or 20 inch coming back.
I could agree on that.
And so I tell most of my competitive players that I like it to be somewhere between 12 and 15 inches by the hole.
I like that.
And I'm not so sure that, Nicklaus was, maybe him and Tiger is probably the best putters ever. Nicklaus was a die putter, man. I mean, his balls would just barely get in the hole, but he was very good at controlling that speed, and that does make the hole bigger. When you're playing on great golf courses on perfect greens,
you got to die it.
Yes, and I think that die putting's a pretty good way to go. This green here is still dormant here in February, and half the reason I can't make it here right now with the perfect putter is that the green's not rolling perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
And so And so dying in the hole
There it is. Boom.
from on poorer greens that only are stimping 8 or 9, I think you have to have a holding speed of 12 to 15 inches by the hole.
Okay.
So once I make that putt,
Just put a tee down.
well, yeah, but or I can put an alignment sticker in my putter and line it up with this rail, and I would do that. So go ahead and you tell me where that's pointing. How many inches to the right of the hole?
To me, it looks about, I'd say like 12 to 16, somewhere around there.
Right, and so that'll show you exactly where to aim. And so I would put a dot right here on the green where my ball would go.
Okay.
And then,
You can put a tee.
yep. And then I would put a gate out here on that same line. And then I'd put a tee here and a tee here. And then I would practice hitting through that gate. And so my eyes can see that break, and I learn to do it.
Yeah, and you only got to get it started.
All you gotta do is get it
first
started
foot
on that line, and
first
then
foot.
the rest of it's speed, right?
Now, when you're thinking of putts, you know, and you're reading, do you try to find the straight putt, so to speak?
I do,
Okay.
especially on big breaking putts. I mean, I grew up on old school greens that sloped severely from back to front. And so when you were pin high, I mean, you might have a 12-foot putt that broke 12 foot.
Yeah.
And so so you had to find the straight end. So that's what I try to do, yes.
And then
I call it the fall line.
yeah,
yes.
I feel like, to me, I try to find that highest point, and I'm just trying to get it to there. I mean, a lot of times for me, when I step up on a green, I feel like I've always been naturally good at least seeing the direction in some sort of line, and then I just try to match it. Now let's see, you know, we can plumb bob this, and let's see how accurate that is. Looks like my plumb bob is a little bit
Less.
less.
Yeah,
Not by a lot though. So I'd say
It does depend on speed, though, because I think this
Yeah.
putt breaks early and then flattens out.
your perfect putter had it somewhere
Right in
around here.
Yeah.
And I feel like my plumb bob was just a little bit right there.
My plumb bob has it out there, though.
Okay.
And so that's where I would aim, is out in that direction then. And if I can roll at the right speed, which I didn't, that'd be a pretty good. But see, it didn't really break that much either. So I agree with you on that.
Now, Ed, once you know, kind of help somebody kind of develop the aim and the read, what's kind of sort of your system on developing or calibrating the speed
Well,
for someone? I mean, for me, I got a simple way. I tell people to use their stance. I was just curious on kind of how you like to do it.
I see. So you're having them use their stance in terms of how big their backswing is?
Yep.
Okay. I don't mind that. My buddy Joe Hallett has a ruler that actually has how far back to take it on a 4-foot putt,
Yeah.
8-foot putt, 12-foot putt, and it works. Shows you how long the backswing is and the follow-through is.
Isn't it? Is it true that I've always heard for every inch we take it back, and obviously if the acceleration is staying constant, it rolls out about 12 inches for that inch, or is that not very accurate?
I don't think it's accurate, honestly.
Okay. I'll stop telling people that.
Well, no, you might. I'm just telling you what I think. I talked to Patrick about this earlier. What a lot of people don't. The reason why distance control is so hard with a putter, everybody that's been around TrackMan knows optimally with driver we try to get a smash factor of 1.5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But do you know what the smash factor is on a putter?
No.
It's 1.86.
1.86. Okay, so it's higher.
It's higher because it's less lofted.
That makes sense then.
And so however fast my putter head is moving, the ball's going to go 1.86 times faster if I make center contact.
All right, I like that.
And so that's why with beginners, if you give them a putter and they're and you get them 10 feet from the hole, that's why they hit it 10 feet past the hole on their very first putt.
Yeah.
And then once somebody gets scared of hitting it too hard, then they never hit it hard enough again for the rest of their life.
Oh, yeah, and we don't like that.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'd rather see somebody at least give it a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why I think distance control's difficult putting. But I think if you understand that there's a bounce factor involved, that's how come I don't think it's proportional in inches.
Yeah, I would agree. The longer I've been, obviously, I think for me, if you can teach somebody a good ratio for their stroke, I'm a little biased. I like seeing someone that has a little bit longer backstroke and then kind of the cruising into it. Don't see too many good putters with short back, like really fast through. I mean, obviously.
Me neither. I used to when I was younger. I grew up in southeast Missouri on common Bermuda greens that tipped about 5. And
so you had to really
so you
whack
saw
it.
somebody that had short backswings and long follow-throughs a lot. But with our modern greens, see, I believe that the putting stroke is a pendulum motion.
Agreed.
Okay. Now, if I swing this putter head in a pendulum, the backstroke and the forward stroke is the same length in a pendulum. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Yeah, it matches pretty good, even though, you know, there's a lot of people arguing that. I mean, it might be a slight kind of slow down through the hit.
Well, okay, it's not though. That's where I'd argue.
Okay.
So here's what it is though. So you're on target for the follow through shorter than the backswing.
Mm-hmm.
See, if I'm making a pendulum motion with this, is it hitting anything?
No.
No. But what happens if it hits the ball?
Then
it has to slow.
It has to
putter
slow down, yeah, a little bit.
So that's where it's slowing down.
Yeah, the moment of impact.
Is impact. So it's not before impact.
Yeah, I would never.
I mean, I know that's like mincing words,
Yeah.
but
I never tell anyone I want you to slow down through the hit.
Right.
You know, I guess
that's what I like about Joe's ruler, is that it actually shows you how much that should slow down
back
on the way through, because his ruler shows a shorter follow through than that.
And I know Bryson's big on tour. He's got a ruler,
right.
and he measures his stroke for certain greens. I simply just say, you know, I break it up into 3 putts. You got a short putt, a medium putt, a long putt. Usually your short putt's going to be within your toes, so I try to get people, you know, shoulder width apart most of the time for their stance. A medium putt's going to be about toe to toe, and then your long putt's going to be a little outside the toes.
Good, I like it. I couldn't agree more.
Pretty simple.
And then, as I've discussed earlier in a video that before Will got here, my favorite distance control practice is to putt looking at the hole.
Yep, I like that. Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of that. I've been doing it for a long time, probably 40 years, and I'm pretty good at it. But I still find that for most players, if you're having distance control problems, practice putting looking at the hole a lot, and you'll be amazed at how good your eyes are and how good your subconscious is. And for players that are too stroke bound, where they're worried about their putter and where it's going,
I get like that.
Putting, looking at the hole, you can't see your putter, and I think it helps those guys a lot.
You know, a lot of times with our junior golfers, we'll have them stand off the green and hold the ball in their hand, and we'll just say, you know, roll that ball with your hand to the hole looking at it. And a lot of times, at least it's fun, and it gives them a little idea on how hard they need to swing that putter.
Yep, I like it.
And even do it with adults sometimes as well.
I do too. So I do it a lot with adults, and especially chipping and pitching. See, by the time you get the sand wedge, the smash factor is 1.
Okay.
So it's almost is a throwing motion.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I would totally agree.
And so that I find that fascinating. So practice putting looking at the hole. I'm a big Apex fan. This isn't the greatest putt to show it on, but if I have this putt from here down to this hole here, I know it breaks a couple feet probably. And so I can put a ball there or a tee out there. That might be a little much. But I like, we talked about earlier, finding apexes of putts. And so that yellow ball is pretty much my apex. And if I can get that ball to curve around it, that's a pretty good way to learn to read greens and to practice your read and your distance too. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So I'm a big fan of that, is using a tee or another ball and figuring out what do you think the apex is and then putting around it.
Yeah, any sort of visualization is key, and practicing where to aim and your read, obviously. Now, for the people that are into the technology, I heard you got something pretty special for reading these greens.
I do. Why don't you explain a little bit before I show it, though, the basic principles of aim point. You have to find a degree of slope,
Okay,
right?
yeah, so typically when you're taking an aim point class, the instructor will have 4 levels out, okay? So you're trying to, there's four percentages. You can get a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. Now, when I took the class, a 1 is pretty much always going to be within the hole. Would you agree? A 2 is pretty much on the edge of the hole. Then the 3 and the 4s is where you're getting quite a bit outside. Now, depending on the speed of the greens, you're varying, you know, how much you're playing it. So that's kind of the basics. Now, once you kind of learn you're going to have a guide on your body here, on your feet, on how to judge the slope. So for me, when I see my knee travel over a certain part of my shoelaces, I know whether I'm at a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So.
Cool. And so when you guys are watching PGA Tour this week and you see these guys straddling this line with their feet.
Which I thought you couldn't actually.
Yeah, you can.
You can? Okay. I always thought you had to do it. When the guy taught me, he said you had to be kind of off to the
you
side.
can straddle it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
No, they'll straddle it and they'll feel which foot is higher or lower, and they've learned their percentages. A lot of them have their caddies doing it rather than them, but a lot of the players are doing it too. And so then when they get back here and they hold up 1 finger or 2 or 3, that's the degree of slope they've imagined this to be.
Yeah.
If it's 1 degree, they hold up 1 finger. If it's 2 degrees, they hold up 2 fingers. Correct?
Correct.
And so, pretty fascinating. You have to be really good at learning to feel with your feet. It's nothing new. Tom Watson always talked about how he read putts with his feet.
Yeah,
so it's nothing really new. It's just quantified it better.
Way to calibrate, correct.
Yes. And so what I've found in the last year or so is an app called Tour Read.
Which I had never heard of it, so I'm glad Ed showed me here.
Yep, and for those of you that are interested in this method, or at least interested in learning how to read greens, this thing is truly amazing. I think it blew you away when you saw it just a few minutes ago.
It's very accurate.
Yeah, it's accurate. And you have to have an iPhone. An Android might work too. There might be an Android version. But you have a gyroscope in your phone. And so this gyroscope, when you put the phone on the ground, will tell you the degree of slope.
Okay.
And so this app, so if I'm 12 feet, 3, 6, 9, 12 feet, pretty close.
Close enough.
This is wintertime, February green, hadn't been mowed all winter. So with this Tour Read app, we'll show you a recording of this screen as we go through it. But I have it set on this green is stimping 8.
I would agree on that.
Okay. And the length of the putt's 12 foot.
Okay.
And so 2/3 of the way to the hole, you can put your phone down on the ground and it will tell you that that's reading 2.1% slope.
From right to left.
From right to left, and it's down also 2%. And so it tells you that the read on this putt is 13 inches to the right of the hole.
Okay.
Is that correct? And so it's truly an amazing thing. And so it's 2.7 degrees slope to the left, 13-inch putt, and that's going to be somewhere right around here.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much your aim point,
pretty much. I'm just inside where you got it,
just in here.
just about there.
Okay.
Yeah,
That could be 13 inches. So. Isn't that interesting?
very interesting. And
And
like,
so all the, as I understand it, all the caddies are using this on the practice round days, and they go to the hole locations and get in a 12-foot circle around the hole and read every putt.
so this could be very beneficial for you come to a tournament or an event, and you just come to the practice green, and you can start kind of calibrating what your 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s look like for the day,
Right.
which
Right.
that would be really cool.
Yeah, and I think if you practice with it on a consistent basis in a couple months, you would know exactly how that goes. I mean, I got 2 different levels I've tried to do with aim point, and they're both awkward. My eyes are so bad as I'm getting older. I can't read them, digital ones, and so I thought this app was fabulous. It's called Tour Read. Anybody that's serious about really learning how to read greens ought to get it, because I mean, it'll tell you everything. There's a chart in there too that you can scroll to that will show you at every step meter reading, at every foot, and every percentage how much it breaks. So it's just physics. It's just gravity, and it works.
It does work.
So
That's awesome.
isn't that cool?
Can't wait to download it and maybe
I don't know what it costs. I can't remember, but it's priceless if you ask me, especially for a competitive player.
competitive player and for a teacher.
Yes, absolutely. And so 13 inches over there.
Get
to
in there,
the
baby.
right, and it ought to
Ooh.
get pretty close.
Ooh.
I just pushed it a hair, but it's pretty accurate, huh?
Yeah, I mean, very, very, very accurate.
All right.